Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Ginnie Graham Show. And I am here with BerThaddaeus Bailey, who has been kind enough to write an op-ed this weekend. And I want to start out by saying I remember, I'm old enough, been around here long enough to remember when you won the MLK oratory contest when you were
Oh
in high
wow.
school. I
Yes.
remember your name, I remember your brain and your skill. And I thought, that kid's going somewhere. And here you are.
Wow.
And I thank you for coming back to Tulsa to let our city enjoy your skills. So you are an up and coming leader, and I appreciate that. So thank you for what you do. If you don't mind taking a minute, you are the is it managing director of My Brother's Keeper?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can you just explain a little bit about what that organization does?
I would love to. I would
Okay.
love to. And Jenny, thank you so much for having me. This is a great opportunity. I love being able to share more about My Brother's Keeper and the work that we do and just really explain a little bit more, especially as I do a little bit more writing and explain a little bit more in detail about, the purpose and the methodology behind, what I'm feeling and expressing. But to answer your question, so My Brother's Keeper Tulsa was a organization and is an organization that was founded in 2021 here inside Tulsa. But My Brother's Keeper goes back to 2014. It was launched as a White House initiative under former President Barack Obama after Trayvon Martin was tragically murdered in Florida. And what President Obama really urged every community to do is to ensure that every city has a strategy and a plan that they develop with partners from across sectors and with boys and young men of color to address the disparities and the inequities that exist in their community. And that's from cradle to career, from enrollment into pre-K to being ready for kindergarten to reading at grade level to graduating from high school, enrolling in post-secondary, getting a job and staying safe in the community. That's all of our milestones and focus areas. And our part of that is to ensure that we have every partner at the table to design those solutions. And so we do landscape analysis to ensure that we understand who in our city is working towards any one of our goals and our milestone outcomes. We bring them to the table and say, hey, here are some case studies of what's happened across the country. Let's see how we can design something like this here locally in Tulsa to support boys and young men of color in reaching economic mobility inside of their city. And so that's the work that we do. We have some programs, a really incredible sports program at Central, McLean, and Monroe. We have incredible Youth All Stars Leadership Council where we try to ensure that we give boys and young men of color the opportunity to elevate their voices in spaces where it's not likely to be included. And so that's just a little bit about MBK and what we've been up to for the past few years.
That is a heavy lift. I mean,
Yeah,
really. So,
it is.
and I'm sure you're just probably it's just getting started
It
because
is.
there certainly are, just in my own experience, huge inequities between schools and neighborhoods and bringing that and making sure all kids have the best opportunities they have. So thank you for that work. That sounds fascinating. I hope to hear more of it.
Thank
In the future. So I look forward to that. You wrote you wrote an op-ed this weekend, and I found it really fascinating that you mentioned your youth and how at one point you thought I'm going to be the first Black mayor of Tulsa.
I did.
So are you disappointed that it's not you? Are you?
Oh no, not
I
in
am
the
joking.
slightest. Not in the slightest. It was so, I was talking with our PR firm about this piece, and I really remember being at Central High School, and I really thought that. I was like, I can't wait. One day I'm gonna be the first Black mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so in December, when that happened, it really was just a symbolic expression of my dreams in childhood, right? Like just to be able to see that happen and take place in our city, regardless of who it is. I think, we had the right candidate for it. We had the right mayor in office. And so it was just amazing to see that come to fruition.
So what motivated you to get a little bit more into it? You wrote
Yeah.
about how the election of Monroe Nichols is a good thing for the boys that you serve,
Yeah.
for people of color. What motivated you to write the op-ed in the first place?
One thing that I noticed is working with 150 boys and young men of color, a lot of times they are limited by their exposure. And I mentioned a quote inside of that article about Miss Edelman, who mentioned that, you cannot be what you cannot see, essentially. Um, but what I noticed is these young men, they have big dreams, but they oftentimes don't get to see themselves reflected in those dreams. And so I wanted to express to not only the boys and young men of color, but their families and their support networks, that the more that we have opportunities like this, the more that other men, people who look like them, break through these types of ceilings and break through these type of barriers, it really provides this ideal and this concept for young men that they can do it too. That maybe, it's not too far-fetched of a dream that they could become a mayor, they could become a president, they could be a United States senator or whatever their dream might be. And so I really wanted that to come across to our different readers who would be reading the paper and seeing this op-ed, but I also wanted the network of supporters that each young man have to know that they've got to continue to provide exposure opportunities for them to see other people in roles that they dream to be a part of, or roles that they dream of having. So that was a part of the influence behind writing that.
So you grew up in Tulsa. Like I say, I remember when you were a standout high school
That's
student.
amazing. The fact that you remember that, that's what, 17 years ago? That's a
Yes,
long
yes.
time ago,
Well, so it's weird the things that stick in my brain and what don't. So
right?
I can't remember things that happened yesterday, but yes, I remember your name from 17 years ago. But I am curious, who are your role models? When you think back to the male role models you had, who were you looking to that led you to becoming who you are?
That's a really strong, powerful question. I was privileged to have an amazing father in my life. And so, my father, Dr. Bertrand Bailey Sr., who's deceased now, but he served as pastor for some 40 something years here inside Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hands down, was the greatest impact and influence, male influence in my life. But we lived in a great area where there was a doctor who lived not too far from me, Dr. Jerome Wade. He owned and operated a Three C's medical clinic. Amazing mentor for me, and the types of wisdom that he poured into my life. I used to work at his house, cutting the yard, working in the lawn, doing all types of things, and he would talk to me about my dreams and talk about the steps that are necessary to get there. And the same with my father. Of course, my father wanted me to go into the ministry. I did not feel any type of calling to go into the ministry, but I had some great mentors. I'm the last of 11 kids, and so my older brothers were also mentors for me. Men within the church were great mentors as well, and so great impacts and influences on my life as well.
So, one of the other things I wanted to mention was you had written a piece earlier for the news section to go around with Black History Month to
Right.
talk about kind of your vision of the future of the community. Can you just kind of sum up a little bit about, because that was very different than what you're writing for this weekend. What did you want to get across with that piece?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I think is important. I want us to realize in that piece that our history as a people should not limit us. It should really propel us into achieving our goals, right? And so I wanted to ensure that Black Tulsa specifically really took pride, and I believe that we already do. It's not me, encouraging us to do that. I believe we already do, but we take pride in the fact that we have such a rich history of people who have come before us and they have charted the territories that we want to chart. And so I really think that that's so important for us to get across in all of our work and in the things that we do. And so that's what I wanted to get across inside that piece.
So, I appreciate you taking time to talk to us about this. I encourage everyone to read the op-ed this weekend. I think it's important. And I'm just so glad you're with us in Tulsa and you're with My Brother's Keeper. So I want to give guests the last word. What are some things you want to leave us with?
I appreciate that. One, I appreciate this opportunity, Jenny, to come and to share on your platform. And this is a great opportunity. One thing that I would want us to leave with today is to ensure that every opportunity we have to invest in our city's youth, that we take that opportunity. I think we are living in a time where our ideals and concepts around investing in those who are furthest from opportunity is becoming challenged. And I want us to challenge that right back and saying that we know that there are inequities and disparities that exist, and we have to do everything we can to address those inequities, and we have to do everything we can to support our youth and support those that we are working with across our city. And so that's my challenge to all those who are reading this op-ed this weekend, for those who are going to watch this video, is just to continue to be invested in the lives of our youth.
I agree 100%. And I'm so glad you're working on that because I have two teenagers, or one teenager now, but I've seen it for years and it's worsening. And I think the work that you do is important and to
Yeah.
keep at it. And anything we can do to help you, we're right there. So thank you again. And I look forward to hearing more of you as one of Tulsa's up and coming leaders. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you for having me.